Hello and welcome to the Property Legacy podcast. This week we're here with Emma Cook, who is a property stager and has been working in the property industry for off and on for the last couple of years, but making really big strides in helping people sell their properties very quickly and for more money than you would normally think. So that's what we're going to be discussing today, how staging can help you sell your personal home, but also help you better sell your rental properties and your flips.
Yeah, I set up Love It to List It, a home staging business. It's about 3 years ago now. The idea came, I actually didn't realise home staging existed. One of my favourite hobbies is browsing through Rightmove and seeing what's on the market, what's coming, what's selling for what. And as I was browsing through Rightmove, I just thought there's so many properties here that you could see were being reduced in value. And quite often unnecessarily, but you knew they weren't getting the attention that maybe they should have just because of how they were dressed. You could see maybe it needed a little bit of TLC. So the idea for Love It to List It came from that. Simply because, from my perspective, if you don't love your own property and you put it on the market, why on earth would you expect somebody else to love it and then buy it? So, Love It to List It came through that. As you say, I've not been in property all my life. I've been fortunate enough to reinvent myself a couple of times. I started out at 16 as a trainee legal executive, so I worked in law. I was qualified at 21, and I had a 22-year legal career, which, quite frankly, I couldn't wait. Corporate world, it did me well for a very long time, but as with everything, things change. Ironically, I never wanted to be a lawyer. I was sat with Dad once chatting about what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I stupidly said I wanted to be a barrister when I grew up. I was actually watching Kavanagh QC and I wanted to act with John Thorpe. Like a lot of little girls, I was on the stage as a little girl, and just, I suppose from there you've got that, this is when you pause it, that not flamboyance and not design, just creativity. Thank you. There we go. So yeah, just as a little girl, being on stage and being creative. I've always had that. Dad was very practical, so Dad was always doing DIY at home. I was pointing brickwork at 7. So I've been involved in property from a very, very young age, but not necessarily as I am now. Mum and Dad as well, always bought a doer-upper. I'm one of the 1 out of 10 people who can see past clutter. I can see past bad decor. I go into a property and I'm like Kirsty Allsop knocking down walls and in my head. So it was quite natural, really, I suppose, 3 years ago, wondering what else I was going to do with my life, and it was just a marriage made in heaven, really. Property.
I think as a creative, you always will be drawn back to something that is creative, regardless of like whatever direction your life and your career goes into. But yeah, from what you're saying, I can massively relate. I mean, we were the same. Like, we were always, our house was always being done up. We were always looking at stuff. Like, I can walk into a house and it's like, don't look at what's on the walls or what the furniture is. You look at like what the space is and what you can do with it. But I think that's such a valuable thing to have, to not look at something as like surface level and to think about the opportunity of a space as well. So when you decided to kind of launch Love It to List It, what were the kind of first things that you did? Like, how did you find your first clients, all of those types of things? I think because it's really easy for us to go, I'm going to start a business, but when people start a business, and what people don't realise is you start from zero. You've got no clients, you've got no money, you've got, social media following, nothing. So in terms of like how you find clients for something that in your head you thought about, you didn't even know it was a real thing that existed, how the hell did you start by letting people know what it was and that you could actually do it for people?
That's a really good question, and it, like you say, it's not easy, and I didn't have a wad of cash in the bank. I literally just started talking to people, and I would tell friends what I was doing. I'd ask friends to just tell other people what I was doing and inquired whether or not they knew somebody who needed a bit of help. I then actually went networking, which was so out of my comfort zone, massively out of my comfort zone, and I met Dave and Martin from PPM. Dave introduced me. I'd done a couple of little jobs for homeowners, but nothing major, and Dave actually introduced me to a chap, I call him Hong Kong John. He had a property in Leyland that he'd had some struggles with, but was setting it up as a service accommodation property. Dave introduced me. I chatted to John, we just got along, and actually John just took a leap of faith in me to set up his service accommodation in Leyland. The builder who he had actually walked off the job before he'd even started. I think he basically thought the job was a bit too what he normally did, and of course John's in Hong Kong, he doesn't know anybody. I actually worked with a build team on a number of occasions personally who I trust implicitly. They're brilliant. They turn up when they say they will, for starters. So I got them involved, and then I ended up overseeing it. So I would nip down to the property, do videos, send them back to John in Hong Kong, and so we could see, and he was supported in what he was trying to do because he'd been so badly let down. Ironically, that wasn't actually the first job that I did. I met a lovely lady called Louise Doolan at another property networking event in Manchester. We just got to know each other a little bit, and she works for Pillar X Property, and these are two fabulous guys, Swiss guys, who we've come to know, and again they put their faith in me, and we did their very first essay and just starting the third one. So I think really it's just, don't be shy, get yourself out, tell everybody what you do, even if they're not remotely interested in it, and get networking, because as scary as it is, there's some really friendly groups out there. You guys have obviously got the Blackpool Property Hub, and we've met as well at the Manchester one, and you just meet all these different people, and some people are on, they're just starting out, others are very experienced. When I first started going, I certainly never expected to start doing my own essay. I'd always wanted to, I'm not going to lie. This, where we're sat, it was already built, and it just wasn't being used as it should have been, and the other half didn't want to do it. But then I kept going networking and coming back and feeding back information, and here we are sat in our own service accommodation.
Yeah, sometimes it has to be a slow feed, and just keep dropping things in the conversation.
Keep nudging.
But I think the biggest point from what you said is you need to talk to people. Whenever we're talking to students, whenever we're talking to anybody, they always talk about trying to find an investor. That's always what everybody talks about. And it literally is. Talk to everybody. Yeah. Put things on social media, go and network. The more you talk to people, the more people actually know what you're doing. Because if you don't tell anybody, nobody has a clue.
Absolutely.
And you don't know who you're talking to and who they know.
Absolutely.
And that is the key thing. You could be talking to one person who knows, you can't be judgmental either. You can't turn around, I'm not going to talk to this person because they don't have any money. But they might have an uncle that's a millionaire that lives down the road. You just don't know who you're talking to and who is interested in working with you and helping you, because everybody wants to help people, majority of the people.
I like to think that.
You like to think that.
I like to think that.
And it's just a little bit of advice, or put you in touch with somebody, or just there to give you a bit of support.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing that you need, and by just going out there, put yourself out there, out your comfort zone, is the number one thing you have to do.
Totally agree. And social media, Alice, that's really your bag. I kind of wing social media to some extent, but I think I've had, it's the other half, I'm not going to lie, it's him who said to me, maybe you're posting a bit too much on social media, and I went, but I'm probably not posting enough. And I know Alice is going to go, no, you're not posting enough, you need to be present, you need to be there. But because he sees what I'm doing, because we're that close
constantly,
he's like, you're constant, and I'm like, I post 2 or 3 times a week. That's actually not a lot.
My partner's got, and my daughter, they're a pain in my bum. If I start talking about work, they boo me.
Really?
So it's become this real thing now, and anything work related, Joe will say, Evangeline, boo her, and they start booing me, and I'm like, this is my life, I'm building this business. So
he's going to listen to this, my other half's going to start booing me.
Booing.
We're not taking responsibility.
But we talk about it so much because we care about it.
Absolutely.
But the funny thing with social media, my whole business, besides obviously working with my dad, and my whole business is social media. 90% of my clients I get from networking, because the impact that you have in person, I always say social media is for nurturing people. So it's great if you meet someone and you go, you're on social media, and you connect, and then you continue to see little bits of what they're doing, and you go, oh my god, this is amazing, look at this project, or oh my god, look at this really funny thing, or oh my god, Steve and Alice have smashed a bulb all over this service accommodation, and little bits like that, and it builds all this nurture sequence up with people, so that if they bump into you again, they feel like they know you.
Yes.
We're so selective with what we do share, and people say to me all the time, you post all the time, and I'm like, but you wouldn't know that my partner and my daughter boo me. You wouldn't know what's going on in my personal life. We're very selective, and we get to choose what we share. The stuff that we do share, people do take an interest in, and it is that human stuff people really enjoy. But networking is such an incredible tool, and businesses that don't network, I feel like they're leaving so many opportunities off the table, because it isn't similar to what you said. Someone might not need you right now. It doesn't mean they don't need you in 6 months.
Absolutely.
And it's never, I think so so many people have this, I see it at networking events, you'll have people that will come, they've never been before, and they've got an agenda. They're coming to sell, right? I know people that will go to a networking event, they'll never met anyone in the room, they're like, right, I'm going to get 5 leads or 5 sales for my business. It doesn't necessarily work like that.
No.
And it is about just having conversations and building relationships. One of our coaching clients, I sat with him at the Manchester event, and we sat on these 2 chairs, we were both really tired, we'd had really long days, and then we were networking, and we were sat talking about dogs. All I did was spoke to him about dogs, and I think I spoke to him about what Property Legacy do for about a minute and a half. That was it. And then the next day he gets in touch with Dad, and now he's one of Dad's coaching clients, right? And he's like, oh, I was talking to your daughter last night. I was like, we were speaking about dogs, like we weren't talking about, you know, let's do business and this, that and the other and all of that. But it is that human element of networking that can really help move people over the line. So it's
that personal connection.
Absolutely.
I think when you're saying people do turn up at network and they expect to go home with 5 leads or whatever, it doesn't work like that.
No.
I'm always saying at network, listen, there's never enough time here, and there's everybody else is trying to have a piece of somebody. If you're interested in getting to know me a bit more, how I might be able to help you, let's go for a coffee. The last coffee I had actually was with a lovely lady. I thought was going for an hour. Left after 3 hours. But then you just meet people and you click, and when you click with somebody, you find out more about what they need and how you can help them and how you can help one another, and it's ideal.
Yeah. When you go networking, then they give you 60 seconds to talk, and it's like, that's almost worthless. It's just a case of, because everybody shuts down because they're thinking about what they're going to talk about. So the only chance in a quick introduction is, oh, well, I need to talk to them, maybe. But yeah, like last night, it was a summer social. We just sat outside chatting, going from table to table.
Oh, it was great.
It was great. But there was people there that I'd not seen for 12 months. There's people there I'd seen regular. There's people there that I'd met incidentally in the middle of Leeds. Yeah, they were there last night. We now got some work together, and his wife was talking to me about this networking event. This girl keeps popping up on her Instagram, and it was you. And I said, oh, that's my daughter.
I think I know you're referring to here.
Yeah.
I'm off to see them later.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that type of thing that you need to kind of work around. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know who's going to be there. And you don't always get a chance to talk to everybody either.
Oh, it's impossible
really
to get
weird.
to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even, some events there might be 20 people there. I've been to some events where there's been 100 people there, and that's just too much for me.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a little bit, and then unfortunately I don't hear that great in a room that's that busy either. So I end up asking people to repeat themselves, and then I feel embarrassed. I prefer the ones like we were at last night with 20 or so people that you actually get to speak to people properly. And make connections.
I've been to similar to you. I've been to all different sizes of stuff, and especially as somebody that runs networking events, we get a small group. I love it because the conversations are so powerful because they really get that time with one another, and that can sometimes move the needle a lot more than there being 40, 50 people in a room, because you've just simply not got the time. Or you could actually, you and your ideal client could be in that room and you might not even cross each other's paths. You might have no idea until you actually have a conversation with them and it flows into something else.
Absolutely. I mean, the last one that I attended that you guys held, there's a lovely lady there, an interior designer, and you might think that we wouldn't meet up to work together because we're similar, but we are also very different. But the beauty with Caroline is that Caroline likes doing more of
it's just themes.
The themes. She likes doing taking into account acoustics and all of that. I don't do that. I'm not an interior designer.
Yeah, it's a design side.
I'm more of a stylist. So we've actually, where we are going to meet up, we were meant to meet up yesterday and unfortunately couldn't do, but we're going to meet up in terms of how we can work together and cross-referral of work.
Absolutely.
Because there's elements that I do that actually, even though she's an interior designer, she doesn't have a big interest in that.
No.
She would quite happily pass the dressing to somebody else and she does the rest of it. So you just never know who you're going to meet, and even people in a similar field and how you can have that collaboration.
I think in property there isn't us and them kind of scenarios. You might get it with the estate agents, they hate each other. With property investors, with property side of the business, they will work together because you don't always have all the bits of the jigsaw to get that project going. You might need a bit of support. You might not not have enough time. Yeah. So there's all that kind of stuff, and you can work with a network of people, a power team, that you can then hit bigger and better jobs. You can then do more jobs at the same time. So it just helps you build your empire as such.
Yeah, a sounding board sometimes is all you need. And, somebody in the same industry might be doing exactly the same as you, but if you've built a good relationship, just to be able to pick up the phone and say, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Do you think this looks okay? And I've got that with a few girls who I've met along the way. No guys, actually. Where are the guys? The home staging guys, but...
I think it's a powerful thing to do as well, because so many people think you have to be in competition. It's like, well, we can help one another, we can advise one another, we can even just, again, like someone at the end of the phone to just be like, oh, do you think this sounds a bit dodgy? Do you think this sounds alright? Like, I think with any industry, it's really easy for people that don't work in your industry to just presume we all do the same thing, but we don't. And it's very similar to digital marketing. The amount of people ask me if I can build my website. I don't make websites, or can you do this, can you do that? And I'm like, no, I've never done that. But I can recommend you 4 or 5 people that I know that are amazing at websites, and I know, I've purposely over the last 2 years with working in the digital marketing space, I can refer people to lots of different people under that umbrella, because so many people do different things. But sometimes if somebody's coming to you, they could just presume you do something, and instead of just going no, it's, well, who actually is better suited to this? Whose direction can I send this person in? Because always comes back round as well. I always find it always comes back round. Whenever I seem to send people elsewhere, then I'll get a message from someone saying, oh, this person told me to come speak to you, you've been recommended, all of this stuff. And recommendations are like huge. They've already built trust with somebody, so it's nowhere near as difficult as they're a brand new person and they've never, there's no rapport that's been built up anywhere else. So in terms of home staging, and I know obviously it's something that you can do for lots of different property strategies. So yes, obviously we can do it for if you're selling a property, if you're a homeowner, you can do it in service accommodation. Do you want to just discuss the different kind of elements and areas that you can actually use home staging in? Because a lot of people may presume it is just for selling a house, but there's a lot more to it.
There is a lot to it. So I actually like the versatility of it all as well. I like doing different projects. It keeps me really interested. So I get involved in designing and kitting out, furnishing, setting it all up for photo shoots for HMOs, so houses of multiple occupancy. I've done a number of service accommodation properties now. We're on number 3 for my Swiss clients, which is fabulous, and they're all doing really well. About to start a second one as well with John Askew, of course, who you've done a podcast with before. Lovely. I think he's back from his holiday today. I think we're off up there to have a look at that property tomorrow, which is really exciting. Love working with John and Paul. That was just like, we didn't know each other to any huge extent before we worked together. Me and John had met through networking again, met Paula, and actually it just ended up, we built such a brilliant friendship working on that project. I think John left a review that said it was like doing a job with your best mate, which is great, which is how you want it to be. I'm too long in the tooth now to start a new industry or a business in something that I don't enjoy, so I want to work with people that I like working.
The good thing about working for yourself is you can choose who you're going to work with.
Absolutely.
You can choose when you're going to work.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. You can concentrate on what your passion is.
Yes.
And that's the whole point of having your own business, is that going with that passion.
Yeah. And for me, my passion really is helping people make the most out of the properties that they've got, whether that is a HMO, whether it's a service accommodation, or whether it's a property to sell. So HMO and service accommodation, you can pick and choose as much of the services as you want. You might already have decorated, you might already have got the furniture, you might just want somebody to come in and make it look like a room. So with HMOs in particular, nobody just wants to live in a room. No. So if you just show them a bed and there's a wardrobe and it's all nice, and it's all new and it's all freshly painted, it's all right.
But it doesn't tug at
it doesn't tug at the heartstrings. Nobody walks in and goes, oh God, I've got to have this room, because it just looks a bit dead. You want to add the life. So we can go in, we can dress it for a photo shoot, we can leave the inventory in there for a few weeks whilst people are doing tenant viewings, which always helps. And that just helps boost as well the room rental fees, because somebody sees it as home, not just a room. Service accommodation, like I say, again, you can boost rents, you can boost avoid vacancy periods. It's all about what it looks like. I was forever standing up at networking and saying, when you do an Airbnb or HMO, don't just do white walls. Add some colour, hence why this is so cool. But it stands out on the listings and it makes people go, do you know what, that looks cool. I might not live in something as colourful, but people like to go away and experience something a little bit different. So yeah, I put my money where my mouth is with this. Unfortunately, it does really well, so I'm able to say that. But then going back to homeowners, property developers, anybody with a property to sell, the more appealing that you can make it, the quicker it will sell. Well, the more attention it will get, the quicker it will sell, and the more money that you will get as well at the end of the day. I hear a lot of property developers and homeowners actually say, oh, we'll just test the market. Testing the market, is it a good strategy? Not really.
Nowadays, when there's apps and software out there that tell you how many times it's been on the market, how many times it's been taken off, and what price it was on, what's adjusted, because that just gives another property investor the ammunition to knock you down.
Absolutely.
And if it's been on the market for a test or whatever, it's just, no. Set it up to sell, or set it up to go from the word go.
Yeah.
Because
First impression.
If it didn't work, then all those brand new housing estates wouldn't have a show house.
Totally.
And that's what it's all about. It's because you can see yourself living in that house.
Totally.
And yes, over the years they may have used beds that are slightly smaller than what you'd normally have, and when you get the house, your bed doesn't fit and all that kind of stuff. But it proves the point that staging a property helps you view yourself in that property and helps you sell properties easier.
It's all about that emotional connection. So when I stage a property, and whether that's an occupied stage or whether it's a completely empty property that's been refurbed, you want to tell a story. So you want somebody to walk in, and I always talk about the movie The Holiday. So Holiday, Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz swap houses. Cameron ends up in this cosy little cottage in
the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Kate Winslet ends up in this big LA pad, and one of the most important things in a bedroom is making it look like a little boutique hotel. So you know the scene. Kate Winslet sees the master bedroom, and literally the arms fly open and she runs and dives on the bed. That for me is the kind of emotion you want to create for somebody coming round to view to buy a property. If they don't want to jump on that bed and feel how cosy it all is, and with all the cushions and the throws and the bedspread, there's something wrong. And if the bed's not made, don't get me started on beds not. Do you know what I mean? All the mismatched duvet sheets is somebody's duvet and their pillows actually match her in another room, and it's just small touches sometimes can make a massive difference.
Yeah, it can all look a bit clinical, can't it?
Yeah.
Just a bit boring.
I think Rightmove's a bit like a dating app. You know, you scroll through Rightmove and you see the photographs, and if that photograph does not grab your attention, you've swiped left. You're going, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So the first impressions, not testing the market, are so crucially important, I think, if you want to sell your property quickly and get the maximum price.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good test to do with Rightmove is, instead of just showing the front of the house, is actually show what it looks like inside, or the kind of the party bit. That first picture shouldn't just be the front of the house, especially if it doesn't look great.
No.
It should be the garden if you've got a lovely garden, or it should be that number one thing that will draw people in, because I'm the opposite. I'm looking for the worst on the street.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I'm looking, that looks terrible. You're right, let's have a look at it. Because there's more chance of you actually them getting a good deal.
Yeah.
But from your point of view, it's a real good opportunity to sell for a lot higher. Even when you're renting a property out, just having it staged so people can see how they could live there. You could get higher rents, and you could even sell everything in there. There's clients that travel to the UK and they just want a pad so they can use while they're here in business. They don't want an empty house.
No.
If it's fully set up, and they go, oh yeah, I'll just keep everything done. It makes it so simple for them.
The first empty property that we staged, I will admit, it was on the market at far too high a price, and they've actually ended up renting it. But I was on holiday in Thailand and got a message through saying, so I think Rightmove is a bit like a dating app. Mm-hmm. So if your pictures on Rightmove aren't attractive enough, you're just going to swipe left. I mean, it's a bit like going for a date. You don't go for a date, do you, dressed in your worst clothes. I mean, I certainly wouldn't go for a date in the morning looking like Freddie Boswell and no makeup on and hair stuck up everywhere. You make an effort. And again, selling a car, another comparison, selling a car, you have a car balloted before you take it to the garage. You want the best price. Yet when it comes to property, so many people don't do anything and just think people can see past the clutter, see past the collections, see past the outstanding DIY jobs. Those photographs on Rightmove, it has to show your house looking bob on because people don't want doer-uppers anymore.
Yeah.
Home buyers don't want doer-uppers anymore. Probably, it makes it easy for you guys. So.
Yeah. But I think Rightmove it'd be a good test just to put the best picture of the best part of the house first. So that's the bit you see, not front of the house, with the bins outside and the rubbish in the garden and all that kind of stuff. Because I think estate agents, they come along, do their pictures quite often when people don't know they're going to turn up, so they've not tidied up, they've not done anything, and literally they've took pictures and gone.
I think especially when we're talking about people that test the market as well, because if you tested the market and 6 months later you've done some changes, people will see that first picture of the house on Rightmove and think, I've already looked at that. They won't even go to look. They won't even go back on, because they'll go, oh no, I've seen that one. Even if the pictures have changed, they wouldn't know the pictures have changed unless they look back on it and could potentially reimagine it. So it is really important. And in terms of obviously home staging, we need to talk about it being like an investment.
It's an investment, not an expense.
Yeah. Are we talking about it in the sense of home buying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, either way.
We've got, I mean, either way, but I think we can say in terms of the outside of the property, so I think you've said that.
Yeah.
So as a home stager, I don't just look at the inside, I will advise on the outside as well. So, the typical terrace house, for example, most houses have got them. It's a row of red houses, and they're generally straight onto the pavement. That doesn't mean to say you can't put a little topiary tree outside, or a hanging basket, or a nice door plaque and a nice door knocker, and clean up your front door. First impressions really are everything. For me as a home stager, I'll look at the whole property inside and out and advise accordingly, because some people will do a drive-by as well before they decide they're going to do a bit. They're lesser than what they used to be back in the olden days, but they still do them to see whether or not they would like to live in that street or at that property.
Yeah, because it's the only way you're going to find out whether it's a noisy area at 8 o'clock at night, or whether it's deadly quiet during the day, and all that kind of stuff. You don't know until you go there. But
if you've got a scruffy outside, who then wants to go in? So it's about just looking at it. It's how people perceive things, and a lick of paint on a front door, it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's a bit of effort. It'll cost you nothing but a tin of paint, unless you get somebody else in to do it because you're no good at DIY. Hanging basket, they're little simple things that make a huge amount of difference to get people through the door. So I think home staging is very much an investment. I know people come to sell their houses, they go, oh, we're selling it, we're not going to spend any money on it because somebody else will come in and they'll do this, that and the other. But say your favourite colour is purple. It's not everybody's favourite colour. There's a lot of people who really don't like purple, and if you've got purple everywhere in the house, you just need to tone it down. And we're not asking people to change who they are as people. When you put your property on the market, it's a commodity. You're selling it. You need to treat that like you would if we go into a shop. I can't stand TK Maxx. I really can't. For me, it's a jumble sale, and my head just goes boom. I can't deal with it. The other half loves it. I'm like, no, I can't go in there. I like to see something a bit more streamlined. I like to go into a house, a shop, mooch round and see if I see anything that's good. I'm very different when it comes to houses. We're quite opposites like that. But you've got to put yourself in the position of the buyer. Do they want to walk through your front door? And if the answer is no, or if you've got dodgy photographs, or you've got a very distinctive taste that doesn't really appeal to an awful lot of people, you need to change that up if you want to sell a house quickly and for the best price.
Have you had clients that just want to sort their house out so they can live in a nice house? Because I've heard stories before where people have done the houses up, got it all sorted, ready to sell, and gone, quite like it. Why have we not done this 5 years ago? And they actually had the use out of it and actually had the benefit of having that lovely house.
I've had discussions with a couple of clients in that respect, and more so, they didn't instruct me to sell, to prepare the house for sale. They specifically approached me and said, we don't plan to sell, but we see what you're doing. Do you think you could come along and give us some ideas and just chat about how we can make this work better for ourselves? And so we've done that. And it's that, like I say, I'm not an interior designer, but I'm an interior stylist. I've renovated properties like mum and dad. I always renovate. I always wanted to do a upper. I'd have done loads more, but the other half doesn't want to. I do need to work on him. I find doer-uppers all the time. Just say, shall we sell? Shall we sell and buy this? And one of the properties I pointed out, he did look and go, but where will we live when we're doing that up? And I said, in a caravan on the driveway. And I'm game for that. I was like, do you know what I mean? I know what the property could look like and the value that could be added to it. He doesn't see it. He's great though when it comes to lifting sofas and dining tables and all the rest of it.
I think especially when you're going back to talking about home staging for selling a home, the majority of the time I think it's really important to think when you're investing in a home stager, it's somebody else's point of view as well.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy for people to go, oh, we're just going to redecorate it. But you're still redecorating it from your point of view, not from the point of view of potentially other people that will want to live in your home.
Yeah.
So having that expertise and opinion of somebody else to come in and be able to see the space differently to you see, you know, we as a homeowner see it as our home, and you don't see it in that way. You see it as an opportunity for something to be sold in the best way and how other people potentially would want to view it. And I think in terms of investment, the investment that people make in you and what you do actually will mean that you will make more money in the sale of that home as well. Because I think most people, again, they want to sell the house for nothing, but if you're getting consistently lower offers, you're actually losing money on something that you could, you know, you make the investment and that informed decision, you make more money, which actually pays for the work that you would do anyway. Yeah. And also it can give them ideas when they do move. Well, I really liked what Emma did in the house. Let's or even the people that are moving in, they already take that inspiration from what you've managed to do. So something I'm really, really interested in, when you're staging homes, what do you do with all the stuff afterwards? Do you store it?
It goes into storage. We're actually expanding our storage facility. We're waiting for it to be built, a new storage facility, which is very exciting, and it does overflow. I've had a very understanding partner for the last 2 years, because our own home has at times become a storage unit. We are fortunate in that we tend to live in the back of the house, so the living room is obsolete. It's clear now. There have been times when it's literally been filled to the rafters. I think at one point we had some elements from inventory, if you will, for staging for sale was in there. And then I was working on 2 service accommodation properties at the same time and getting all of the deliveries of things here. So I God knows how many kettles and toasters and bedding and all the rest of it, and it was literally everywhere. But yeah, it goes into storage. Storage is super expensive, so I know there's some developers out there who go, oh, I'll stage it myself. The question I would have put to them is, one, do you really have you got the eye? Do you know what people really want? You won't have the trade accounts probably that I have, because this is my profession, so I can purchase furniture at a cheaper price and be more cost effective in the long run. You've got a style, you've got to put it all in there, and it's no easy. Everybody just thinks we kind of go, cushion? And there's far more to it than that. Fluffing cushions is the easy bit, but like you say, at the end of it, what are you going to do with it? If you've done a flip and you decide to stage it yourself, that's all well and good, but then that furniture has to go somewhere whilst you wait to do the next flip. And storage is really expensive. It's not cheap. It's super, super expensive. So why not spend your time doing what you're best at doing? You know, getting the deals, seeing through the projects, you know, transforming a house and making a house beautiful again and that somebody wants to live in, and leave the staging to the professionals.
Well, it's something that I talk to people about a lot, is when you're investing in property or you're doing property in any form, you don't want it to be another job.
No.
So the best thing to do is have your team of contractors that can come in, because they're specialists at what they do. They'll get it done a lot quicker, quite to a higher standard than somebody that can do a bit of everything. And you'll turn it around a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Because it might take you 5 or 6 months to do it all yourself, but you could have it done in 3 months.
There you go.
I was talking through networking again, talking to a guy who runs a company who does houses up for housing association, and he can take a property back to brick, turn it right round in 6 weeks.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean? But they do that every single day of the week.
They've built that team. That's what they're specialising in doing, and that's the beauty of it. There are specialists out there, so why try and do something yourself? I mean, I think there's Mark, who we all know from networking. Mark told me they'd dress their properties. I said he would never do it again, because the amount of times that he went back and forth on the motorway and to, you know, the retail park to buy X, Y, Z, probably spent more than he needed to as well. But it was the time that he spent. He's part of him's glad that he did it, because then he understood what we do as stagers. But would never do it again. So if that's not your forte, don't do it in the first place. I think fantastic John Askew as well said he'd rather set his hair on fire than do it himself. And that was literally us working together and him seeing what actually goes on behind the scenes, and there's a lot. So I think when we talk about the investment as well, staging, it's not necessarily cheap. There's different variants of staging as well. So I'm not going to be the cheapest, but I'm not going to be the most expensive either.
No.
Subject to who you go with, I would always say when you're choosing a stager, ask them what sort of things they're going to be installing, what's going to be in, because sometimes, you might, I do like solid, it makes it harder for me, but I do like some solid pieces of furniture and true bedside cabinets. I don't want to put just a little side table in every bedroom. I might do it in a couple, because that obviously brings the cost down. But I think in some rooms you need something a little bit grander, particularly the master bedroom, or maybe a bedroom where there doesn't look to be an awful lot of storage space. To show that you can have a cupboard in there or true chest of drawers is quite important. So I would always say to people, ask who you're inquiring with, what's really going in, how are you going to do it? You're not going to get a mood board because, quite frankly, for us to be as financially viable as we can be for everybody, we're not going to sit there and do mood boards all day long and send them across for your approval because it takes a lot of time and you might say no. But there's a lot of costs that go into it. So recently I had somebody approach me who wanted, I think it's a three bedroom extended detached property staging, and I gave a price. They came back and said, we're not going to do it this time. And this has gone from a conversation that was very much we are going to do it to we're not going to do it. And I said, can I ask what did you think it was going to cost? Because it came down to how much it was going to cost.
Yeah.
And the answer was a couple of grand. And I explained, staging a 3-bedroom property with living room, open plan, living, dining, family area, so it's a really big extension. I need a removals company to take the furniture from my storage unit down to there. So you're talking at least 2 men and a van. So you're probably talking somewhere between, and locally, this would be locally, £400 or £500 each way with the removals guy and shipping the furniture in, which then leaves £1,000 for the time that I spend dressing it and then undressing it, the warehouse time, storage fees, marketing. There's a lot that goes into it that needs to be accounted for. And then there's of course the furniture, and in a property that size, top of my head, I'm probably installing £8,000 worth of furniture, artwork, mirrors, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
It's never going to be £2,000, and that's where the talk about investment into staging comes into play, because a lot of people go, we haven't budgeted anything more than that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just not doable. We can't do it. But they miss the point of first impressions, not testing the market, going in, list the property at a sensible price, staged, looking beautiful, telling the story, get the right agent involved for the promotion, and it will sell a lot quicker. And therefore, for property investors in particular, if you've got your money back quicker, because you've sold it quicker and you've got the best price, you can then move on to the next project a lot quicker.
Well, your costs for holding a property for 6 months is quite substantial. All the bills, all the insurance, all the council tax, everything you have to pay, as well as all the contracts, as well as everything else. So the quicker you could turn that around to get that money going, or move on to the next one, or get it refinanced so you can move on, it just cuts down the amount of cost.
Yeah.
And I think if people understood how much it costs to actually hold for an extra 2 months while they did something, rather than just getting it done.
Probably more than the cost of staging.
Yeah. And the thing is what people don't understand as well, when you put a house on the market, your estate agent, most estate agents, will put it higher than they think it'll go for. Because they want you to go with them.
Which is foolish. And I talk about this a lot on my socials. Yeah. Don't go with the estate agent who's flattering you.
No.
Flattery gets you nowhere.
Well, this is it. Because all it's going to do is sit on the market, nobody's coming to view, and then it'll come down and come down and come down over a period of time. And then you're just going to receive lots of bids that are below what you're asking for. So you could lose 20 grand even, or 30,000, just because it's been pitched at the wrong
and you lose space.
Yeah.
And everybody's watching. So if in particular if you're not necessarily a homeowner, but into property, and you've got investors, and your property is then just getting dropped and dropped and dropped because it becomes stale very, very quickly, it's game over. Who wants to invest in you again?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's all about doing it right. But I do say, staging isn't the magic wand. It certainly helps, but pricing it right, the right promotion. It amazes me how many estate agents do not use social media for selling houses.
Oh yeah.
There's hardly any, and you just think beautiful houses. Get them on social media.
Yeah.
I've heard of people with, the 17-year-old daughter seeing a house on social media and going, Dad, look at this, we've got to have this house. Dad goes to view it and buys it, and would never have known about it were it not, because not everybody's actually looking.
No, and it's the beauty of video as well, I think, especially in a staged property too. There's only so much you can do with a picture of a room. There really is. And especially if there's not really much going on in there. And then if you try to video that room, that's even more boring. Whereas if you're putting in those elements and those parts of that room, they can visualise what it would be to actually walk into that space.
Yeah.
All of those elements really do help, and they're more likely to be shown to more people as well than just, here's a picture of the house and here's a floor plan from Rightmove. Like, people need more than that now. Especially if you're somebody that's wanting to invest in property and you're not necessarily, you could be somebody out of the country, especially if you're working with SAs or HMOs and stuff, you could be looking to invest in an area that you're not there. So, making the time to go out and visit. Most people wouldn't go out and visit properties unless we're maybe visiting 4 or 5 in one day. Making it as simple for people as possible. I remember when we were younger, we moved down from Birmingham Way to Blackpool, and we were driving up and down looking at houses. I remember being a child up and down looking at houses.
Another day out, Dad.
Yeah. That's the thing, if you're making it easier for them to make that informed decision, you're not wasting a journey then as well. You can actually really imagine yourself there.
But this is when I suppose we look at location. That's quite a good lead into location.
Yeah.
People will be after a certain location, but people are also after a lifestyle. And you touched on it before, the big boys, they've got a showroom for, a show house for a reason. If you're a developer and you're doing a flip, your flip is actually competing with all the other new builds out there because it's for a specific kind of market. If you don't dress it and people don't walk in and think, this feels like home, it's gone. And you've got about 7 seconds online to make a great first impression. And it's very similar when somebody steps through the door. How many doors have you stepped through? I mean, I've done God knows how many viewings over my life. I'm sure you've done many as well. And you step in and the hallway is just completely cluttered. There's all the kids' school bags here, there's school shoes, there's coats everywhere, coats over the banister, yet there's a downstairs closet that's not being used. And you're just like we say, small tweaks. So it can be a small tweak to a property that increases its appeal, or it can be a big full-on home stage and dressing the property. We do basically everything in between. We do decluttering as well.
And as you say,
decluttering is great.
Get rid of all the clowns and the dolls.
Yeah, get rid of... Oh, God, yeah. There was a property quite some time back now here in Preston on the market. Beautiful property, period property. And decorated in a kind of period style as well. I remember this one photograph. There must have been 20 dolls lined up on a settee, all just staring at the camera. And it was kind of... And you just think... creepy movies like Annabelle and stuff, and it's just so off-putting. And I know things like this sometimes are people's hobbies, plate collections, there's all sorts that go on, but if these are very personal things. You've got to depersonalise and allow somebody else to come in and imagine themselves living in your house.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And unless you can capture that, you're not. You're literally aiming for the 1 in 10, not the 9 in 10, who can see past it. And I see past it. I mean, I'm, from 5 and being dragged around very much like Alice was, looking at every single property on the market. Which one's Dad going to buy this time? You learn how to do it, but we live in a world as well now. We've touched on social media and like Instagram. Homeowners don't want doer-uppers. There's some really good stats on this actually. I think it's 81% of home buyers now are looking for something that they just put their own little stamp on. They want everything pretty much moving, livable, but then, there might be a feature wall that's blue and their colour is green, but they walk in and go, well, we can easily just paint that. Your patterned wallpaper and all of that is very, very personal. That's where interior design comes in. But for me as well, if somebody's doing a refurb, I would say to people, step away from white. Just add a little bit of personality in there. You can do white walls, but do an off-white. Don't go for your brilliant white. Don't go for the magnolia. It just looks like nicotine stains. It's awful.
Terrible.
You know, you can add a little personality without going OTT, and it makes a huge amount of difference, because then as a home stager, if I've walked in and somebody's got this, you know, feature wall and maybe there's some acoustic panelling in there, you know, some nice soft greens, I just think, oh, that's going to look amazing when I ship in this, you know, lovely settee that's going to complement it, artificial plants, all your little knickknacks, and I will then choose coffee tables that complement the decor rather than just putting in what I've got.
Right, what else do we need to talk about? Have we covered everything?
We covered everything.
I've just covered my 81%.
Oh, amazing. I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think so.
No?
I mean, we could waffle on all day long, probably,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they'll turn off.
No, I think we've covered like all the real positives, the different ways that you can do it, and then we've also brought in the other elements of like the relationships that you've built, all of that type of stuff. What we'll do now then is we'll finish by asking you a question. I'm going to say, I'm going to ask you what's the best advice that you could give somebody if they're looking to work with a property stager, like what, or do you think there's a better question?
I feel I answered that before.
Right, okay.
Because I said about ask them what they intend
you did. Right.
what they're going to use.
What we haven't done is if somebody wants to work with you, how do they get in touch?
Okay.
I suppose another thing as well is, I think something that's quite important to get across is home stagers talk of kits. I don't like to talk of a kit. I talk about an inventory.
Yeah.
One kit won't suit another property. So in terms of choosing home stagers as well, that question about what's going in is really important. I mean, this is filming and you can't put this out. Somebody who I know, and they train help people. They basically do a lot of advertising on Facebook to get people to join her training to learn how to home stage. And it's basically, if you like interiors, become a home stager. There's so much more to it than that. But I've seen some properties that they've done and the furniture looks ridiculous because it doesn't suit the property.
Yeah.
So for a country house, for example, your settee won't be a super modern one.
Yeah.
In a little country cottage. So that's important to look for the stager who is right for you.
Yeah.
I know a lady who specialises in probate properties. You're not even gonna ask me the question, are you? You're just gonna not bother editing this. But no, I know a lady who specialises in probate properties, and she goes network and she actually says, I'm looking for 10 people. And it's just her little introduction and breaking down barriers, and she does amazing, and she upcycles a lot of furniture. She will go in, she will declutter, and then she puts in not new furniture, because let's face it, if they haven't really, it's an old person's home, somebody who's passed away, somebody who's loved the property for a long time, she'll work with their furniture, and you know there might be a beautiful table that she'll put a beautiful piece of linen on, and then dress it for dinner, and it transforms it. So it's when you're looking for a home stager, you need to be finding the right home stager for you. And we're all going to be different. We're all going to have different ideas. And the cost, really, the investment bit shouldn't really be the one thing that you home in on, which I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
It's who is the right fit for you, who are you appealing to, what lifestyle are you trying to sell. And actually, realistically, with probate properties, of course, people don't want to spend a lot of money, but you can make them look a billion times better with just a few tweaks.
Yeah.
But find the home stager who specialises like that.
Amazing. So if somebody wanted to work with you, tell us a little bit about the ways that people can work with you and the best ways that they can get in touch with you to start those conversations.
Okay, so the best way to get in touch with me, pick up the phone, drop me a WhatsApp message. We do have a contact form on the new website.
Wow.
So website number 3, but we're learning what works, and we've made it a lot easier for, subject to who you are, whether you're a homeowner, property developer, estate agent. Go on the website, find the little block, click on there, you'll see all of our services and how we can help. But the easiest thing is just pick up the phone, we'll have a chat. If I'm not the right fit for you, I will tell you, because I'm not going to be the right fit for everybody, but I know lots of other professionals that I'll be able to hook you up with as well, and put you in touch with somebody who I know is going to look after you and do it in the right way. But yeah, I generally, if your house is on the market, if you've got a property on the market, what I tend to ask for is link to the Rightmove listing or there are other platforms out there.
Uh-huh.
But send me the link, let me have a look at it, and then within 10-15 minutes I'll be able to advise you whether or not I can help. And sometimes it might just be a couple of changes, sometimes it might be a bigger job, and we'll just give you the options. I do offer a do-it-yourself kind of guide, so if there's a homeowner who knows that they need a little bit of help, or they've been told they need a little bit of help, maybe from a friend or a family member, but say they don't have the budget there to pay a professional, you can save yourself a lot of money, a lot of hardship, and a lot of stress, because let's face it, selling a house is stressful. Get in touch. I can give you a step-by-step guide bespoke to your property, and you can go ahead and do the work yourself. And actually one of my first clients was that. She'd been on the market for, I think it was about 12 months, a lady in Leven. I went to see her, gave her the guide, and I actually loved working alongside her. She was messaging me and saying, oh, look what I've done to this bedroom now. And then she just completely transformed the house, went back on the market with a new agent, and literally the first weekend that she was on the market had 3 viewings with all the potential buyers fighting to buy her house. She'd had no viewings for about 6 months before that. So yeah, just get in touch, and like I said, we'll help you. We'll give you different options in how we can help, but sometimes it might just be a 15-minute phone call. I might not be charging you at all. I might just give you a couple of pointers, and house is sold.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and thank you for listening and watching.
Yeah, marvellous.
Thank you so much for listening to the Property Legacy podcast. Remember to like and subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube, wherever you'd like to watch or listen to us. Make sure to catch up with everything that we're doing over on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and TikTok. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much. And if you have any comments, then leave them down below. All of Emma's details will be in the description. And thank you so much for being with us today, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me.